Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at one of my Patreon's set of 5 videos, Go Battle League battles, and this is gonna be a little bit different than the typical battle videos that people send me when they go like 10-0 or 15-0. I'm gonna be very thorough on each of the matches and giving very detailed advice, and this is the level of advice that I would typically give to a patron. So if you want to join, obviously links in the description, and I thought I'd do a video on it just so it'd be helpful to the broader audience, and as well to Ricky as well. So Ricky's team consists of Azumarill with Play Rough and Hydro Pump. All three, like all the combinations of Azumarill's movesets are very viable. You know, Play Rough, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, which is the one set I like to use. Ice Beam, Play Rough, and then they're all viable. They have like different trade-offs. The Hydro Pump's really nice for steel types that you might get stuck in with, like Registeel, for example. Ice Beam is nice coverage for grass types, which are one of the hardest counters against Azumarill. And then Play Rough is really good for the mirror, and then as well for water types, since water types like Lantern, for example, to be able to do some damage. So all very viable, just depending on what your team coverage looks like. So the first thing I like to do when a patron asks me for some advice or some help is I like to run their team through pvpoke.com, click on Team Builder. I put in the Pokemon, put in the moveset. If you want, you can put in their IVs, which could be helpful, especially some matches are very close. I put those 3 in. You put it in the Great League, make sure it's all for all Pokemon. You click on Rate Team, and then this will show you how your team compares against the top 20 Pokemon in the meta. So you can see Azumarill, because it has Hydro Pump, is able to beat Registeel, is able to handle Altaria very well. It's able to beat the fellow Azumarill because this one has Ice Beam and Hydro Pump, and then etc. So you can see the Pokemon does well against and loses against. And if you go against the potential top threats, these are some of the Pokemon that you have to worry about. And as long as you're not seeing like super meta stuff at the beginning, then usually you're in a pretty good position. Like Rainy Castform would be able to beat Azumarill, Registeel, and Haunter, but you're not going to see too many Rainy Castforms. Whale Lord, able to do really well again. All these water gunners are you going to be able to resist Azumarill's moves, and they must have coverage move like Vaporeon with Last Resort, for example, is going to be able to do quite a bit of damage to Azumarill, and the water gun damage is going to add up relative to the bubble damage. And then you'll see Pokemon like Munchlax and Whiscash and Marshtomp, basically the Mud Boys or like Pokemon with ground moves are going to have favorable matchups against Registeel and Haunter. So if you don't catch the Mud Boys, then it might be pretty difficult to line up these matches. Registeel and Haunter can still do a lot of damage to them, so it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not like Bastiodon versus the Mud Boys, where Bastiodon has very little play, or even Probopass has very little play. Registeel still has that Focus Blast, and Haunter still has that Shadow Ball, which can basically do a lot of damage to their Pokemon. So the team looks not bad. There's no major holes, nothing really major to work at. But when I take a look at the team construction, there's a couple things that you want to think about. Actually, this team would be pretty weak to Lantern. I'm sorry, Lantern's not on this list anywhere. But regardless, so when you take a look at this team, you want to think about what are your safe switches. So for example, if you're a Azumarill and you see a Venusaur, what's your play? So I would actually recommend, if you see a Venusaur, you come in with Haunter, because Haunter is going to be the soft counter versus Venusaur, and hopefully then you can line up, and Haunter with energy advantage is able to flip a lot of matchups, and then you can save Registeel for the Venusaur a little bit later on. But it really depends on the Pokemon that you anticipate, so you really want to think about what Pokemon would you switch out of this matchup against. Like if it was Lantern, that's pretty tough, but Haunter still makes some sense, especially if it's a non-water gun one. The Sparks are not going to do a lot of damage to Haunter, so it's going to force a lot of shields, and or at least do a lot of damage and force the potential switch out. But let's take a look at game number 1 and see how he does. Again, I might stop after each match, run through some sims, talk about some of the matchups and how to necessarily play them out. All right, Azumarill versus Swampert. This is a very favorable matchup. You can also take a look at the CP. It's at 1463. So Ricky does a really good job at not shielding because it does take roughly 5 bubbles, equivalent of bubbles, to get to the Sludge Wave. So since he wasn't anywhere near the play rough, he knew he was pretty safe. And he decides to no shield. And if this was a Sludge Wave, this would basically be able to KO. So a little bit risky play. So before we actually move on to this match, I'm going to quickly show the sim. So even though, let's see here, at even energy, which is pretty much this scenario, Swampert, we know it has Earthquake. But even if it had Sludge Wave, for example, even getting shield baited, you still win the 1 shield matchup. So there is some merit in shielding the second one after you see the Hydro Cannon, because even if it is a Hydro Cannon, they're unlikely to get to the Sludge Wave before you're able to get to the play rough, and that would save Azumarill a lot of health. So in this case, it was Earthquake, so it would have saved Azumarill about half its health, and Azumarill with 50% health is pretty dangerous, unless you think that there's a grass type, like a Venusaur, mostly a Venusaur, then there's not a lot of merit to saving it, but something to consider. Coming out of that matchup with a 1 shield advantage is still pretty good, but it was pretty risky. So Earthquake does 91, and then Sludge Wave does 111. So likely he would have got fainted down with Mud Shots, or the Sludge Wave actually would have KO'd. So you can see loses the 1 shield matchup or the 0 shield matchup pretty badly, and that can be pretty costly. So risk and reward, but I think a lot of people are running Sludge Wave on their Swamperts now, but a little bit lucky and able to come out of that lead matchup, which is very important to win the lead, and or what I should say, win the initial matchup. If it comes switching and switch, winning that initial matchup allows you to control the tempo of the match. It allows you to determine what Pokemon are going to be lined up with what, and then allows you to dictate that, and you can line up your counters appropriately. And so in this case, because he won the lead matchup, Clefable came out. Now he can align Registeel against Clefable, which is going to be, both of them resist, but because shields are not down, the charms are still going to do a lot of damage to Haunter, Registeel does make a little bit more sense in this matchup. So let's go ahead and see what he does. So he switches in Registeel, and then very, very great job at not immediately switching, because if for example, if it was Wishcash, then it would be pretty bad to switch to Haunter, though staying in would be pretty bad as well. So a couple things to note there. I think it was pretty difficult to know that it was a Flash Cannon, but I think there's a couple things that you can take a look at. We're gonna backtrack the match a little bit. You can take a look at your energy relative to the opposing Registeel, and you have 2 shields as well, so it's not that bad. And as you can see, you're almost at a Flash Cannon, or almost at a Flash Cannon by the time the Registeel comes in. And I think the Registeel almost immediately fires off. It is only 2 lock-on difference, so it's very hard to tell. But I'm not even sure that Registeel got to the Flash Cannon, got to a Focus Blast before firing it off. And but 2 shields, and all you do, but it's important that if this Registeel does get KO'd, then there's a potential to end up losing that matchup. So it still made a lot of sense to shield. So in this matchup, you can just Flash Cannon down and don't have to worry too much. It does take, I believe, 9 charms to get to, and experience a little bit of lag. 9 charms to get to the not Moonblast, the Meteor Mash, which would have did quite a bit of damage to Registeel, but he still had Haunter in the back. So he played that matchup quite well, winning the lead, but was a little bit lucky that it wasn't Sludge Wave. So predicting the Hydro Cannon, well, not even predicting the Hydro Cannon because the Hydro Cannon came way too early, was very well done. No shield on the second one is a little bit iffy just because of his Sludge Wave. Then it would have KO'd and then would have put Swampert at a lot of energy, lot of health. And then Swampert does very well against the rest of the team. Like it would have definitely been able to burn 2 shields against the Haunter, and then would have left it pretty vulnerable. So I think I think that was a risky move. Ended up paying off, so that's not too bad. And the second thing is that staying in the matchup, waiting for the Pokemon, not switching right away, I think was a really good maneuver. Especially you don't necessarily know what they're going to come in with, and you can couple indicators that you can do. Obviously, you can listen to the audio, which is what a lot of people do. But what I like to do as well is we're going to see the switch in. So you can see the switch in is I like to look at my HP and then see how quickly my HP is going down as an indication. So, for example, the HP is going down a lot. Okay, I know that this is likely a counter user. It might be Defense Deoxys, might be Medicham, and then you can switch a little quicker into Haunter, knowing that. If it's like Mudshot, it's not going to do that much damage. If it's Fire, then that would do a lot as well. But I think staying in, waiting, anticipating, playing it out correctly, knowing he has a 2 shield advantage, that he can just go for the Focus Blast. If he gets shielded, he can double Focus Blast and still would be in a very good matchup and situation. So I think played that one quite well. But again, knowing your matchups and knowing how to play it out. And especially knowing that you have to get rid of the Swampert against this team was really important. And so we're going to go into this next match. Azumarill versus Registeel. These Hydro Pumps do quite a bit of damage to Registeel. Registeel is going to outpace Azumarill. Ideally, you get 5 bubbles in. And because it takes 6.5 turns to get to the Flash Cannon, and 4 bubbles is 6 turns, 5 bubbles is 7.5 turns, so quite valuable. And then really nice switch by the opponent, and he stayed in quite a bit to wait, but that was a very aggressive switch and really nice job by his opponent. Switching into Registeel made a lot of sense. It's going to be able to tank a lot of these Frenzy Plants and be able to do quite a bit of damage to this Venusaur. But these Frenzy Plants still add up. They still do quite a bit of damage. And it's not going to KO, but going to put Registeel super low. So he doesn't want to take any risks. He doesn't want to get farmed down. I would have overcharged. I think overcharging there would have been a little bit valuable in the sense that, the first Frenzy Plant takes 6 turns to get to. You have 48 energy. That means you have 3 left over after you use 45 for the Frenzy Plant. And then when you do, then you need 42 energy, but that still means that you have to get to 48 energy, right? So now you're left with, in this case, 6 energy left over. The third one takes 5 turns because of like how the math plays out. Instead of getting 48, you only need to get 40 because you already have 6 left over. So I think like just counting appropriately after they fire off the Frenzy Plant, farming it a little bit might mean that you get to another Flash Cannon, especially at the health that Registeel's at. So it's able to get to it because Registeel is an absolute beast, and able to get off this Flash Cannon, which does like about half to Altaria. So, but this Azumarill is at very low health, and gonna look to fire off this Play Rough. And we know that this Registeel's in the back. We know this Registeel already took a Hydro Pump, so it's actually pretty low health. The shield, totally correct. And then, so I think this is the critical mistake in the match. So the thing is that you know that there's Registeel in the back. You know that lock-ons are going to be double resisted by Haunter, so they only do like one damage or 2 damage per second. So for 2 damage for every Shadow Claw. So the thing is that the Altaria has Dragon Breath, which doesn't generate energy that quickly, and needs to get to Sky Attack, which is 45 energy, which is going to be 7.5 seconds, right? Consistently 7.5 seconds, because 45 divided by 3 is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. And you know that at this range, you basically just need to count, right? So unless the Altaria overcharge, which is certainly a factor. So you know we fired off right here. So like the Shadow Punch only takes 5 turns to get to. So I think like at this range, you can definitely farm down. And that's like definitely what I would have done, knowing that the Shadow Punch is not going to be enough to KO Registeel. Registeel's going to have to KO you on a charge move. It's not going to be able to feint you down. So paying a little bit riskier probably would have paid off in this match. So we're going to see the Shadow Punch come through. It's going to KO. And then we're going to see the race. Actually, no, the Registeel did not take the Hydro Pump. It actually shielded the Hydro Pump and then switched out, which made sense. So he ended up losing that match. So I actually completely forgot. Okay. Where did earlier this match? Let's see. I think it ended up. It looks like it ended up shielding the Hydro Pump. Yes. In this case, I think you go to avoid the situation. So there's a couple things. Not shielding was very risky. Not that in terms of KO. The opponent played it very well. Aggressive switch, almost KO'd the Azumarill. I think you like match shield is an appropriate strategy against Registeel. Obviously landing the second Hydro Pump, which can you do that? No shield matchup. Yeah. Well, okay. I guess he shielded. So you would not have got to the second Hydro Pump. Oh no, you do get to the second Hydro Pump, and then it KOs. But did a really nice job at being very aggressive, and so it kind of makes sense. Like leave the Registeel pretty low, come out with a shield advantage. That was definitely a really good idea. Unfortunately, the Venusaur came in and kind of disrupted things, so that was a really nice play by the opponent as well. Kind of risky, because like if Skarmory or a Flyer would have came out, then it would have been able to farm. But baiting out the Flyer is not that bad, especially if it's Skarmory, because Registeel has a lot of health and would be able to kind of farm the Skarmory afterwards. So I think that was the first thing. Like I think double Hydro Pump would have been nice, and then leave it pretty low. It's just like, what do you come in with afterwards? I guess the Haunter probably, and come in with the energy advantage and up a shield. That would have been pretty good. So, and then the second thing is that because the Hydro Pump didn't land, you know that you need to land the Shadow Ball, because the Shadow Punch is not going to do a lot. And then you know that the lock-ons are not going to KO, are very unlikely to KO the Haunter. So risking it, not immediately firing off, trusting that you need to get to the Shadow Ball and potentially farming down or building up a little bit of energy, especially knowing how long it takes to get to the Flash Cannon. It takes, in this case, like it takes 6.5 turns to get to the Flash Cannon, and it takes 7 turns to get to the Shadow Ball, assuming even energy, which you don't know that either, right? You don't know. Well, you likely know, because the Registeel fired off the Flash Cannon and then switched out. So you just need even just a 1 Shadow Claw residual energy after you do the Saturday Punch to be able to win that match. So, but still played reasonably well. And like honestly, one Shadow Claw would have won that match, and it would totally flipped it. And you saw that Registeel was able to get to a half turn sooner than Haunter. So, GG. Okay, all right. We are going to go into the next match. Again, rocking the same team. And let's see what lead he's encountering. Okay, this is okay-ish, depending on... Okay, look, so really good, no shield. It ends up being Psycho Boost, which is definitely going to nerf Defense Deoxys' attack by a lot. So going straight for the Hydro Pump. This is going to do a lot of damage to Defense Deoxys. And to be honest, I wouldn't with no shield, especially since these attacks are double debuff now. Now basically this, it's doing like half the damage that it would normally do, and now it just keeps firing off these Psycho Boosts. And these counters are also resisted, so it's basically doing almost no damage. You definitely okay. So I know there's risk of getting hit by a charge move, but the thing is like, and we can take a look at this. After the 2 debuffs, even if it's Thunderbolt, so Thunderbolt would do 76 damage, which is less than half of Azumarill's health. Azumarill's a beast. So this would actually do only 38 damage to Azumarill. So only a quarter. So like Azumarill is at more than a quarter. So we're going to just go back a little bit. Oh, no. Okay. You'll see that Azumarill is at more than a quarter. So, and you can see how little these Psycho Boosts do. So I think coming out of this matchup with like basically 100 energy would have been very valuable. So he's going to look to undercharge it, but it ends up shielding it. Okay, all right. So it didn't really matter. Well, okay, I probably wouldn't shield this Psycho Boost. Again, because the double debuff. So he kind of came out of that matchup with even energy. So we're going to be able to fire off this Hydro Pump. Oh, no, not able to fire off the Hydro Pump. Not great. I would have, to be honest, I would have fired off the Hydro Pump for a few reasons. The Hydro Pump, we're going to see on Registeel. And the thing is, it can't lock on down. It can overcharge, but it's at risk of getting hit by another charge move. The Hydro Pump would do 51 of 125 damage, which would be about almost half of Registeel's health. So I think it's worth it, and it's a lot of energy and a lot of time to get there. Obviously, shaving the shield because you have a Haunter in the back makes a lot of sense too, but you would have potentially burned the shield, and it's a debatable move. But when you're at it and you have a pretty high damage move, then I think it's worth it. So going to come into Registeel, and this Registeel matchup is not great. Like really bait dependent, and we're going to see how he's going to play it out. In this case, they go straight for the Focus Blast. And at this range, there's some like clever play that you can do. I think you try to click on it right away as opposed to waiting a little bit. But maybe he was trying to spam it, but it just looked like he was waiting a little bit. And then going to switch out. I would have switched out to Haunter and then looked to get the energy advantage. And now, unfortunately, if he would have switched out to Haunter, then he would have been able to beat. Well, actually, no. Yeah, he would have been able to beat the Altaria to the charge move. So I think there's a couple of things to consider there. I think the shielding. Okay, so I think after the 2 debuffs from Defense Deoxys, you pretty much don't shield anything. Like it's already reduced its attack by 4 stages, so it basically cut everything in half. You just farm down, and then farming down would have resulted in 100 energy. Would have been able to get off the Hydro Pump, then let it go afterwards, and would have had 2 shields in that matchup. And then the second thing is like once you saw the Registeel didn't KO, that's like as soon as you fire off the Focus Blast, you immediately pop out the window, go to Haunter. Because that Registeel is not going to do very much at that low health. It's only going to get farmed. So you're going to be at an energy disadvantage. Taking out that Registeel with Haunter, knowing that, in this case it was in Altaria, knowing that you take half a turn more, or no, you actually get there beforehand if you're at even, but because it was able to farm down, ended up costing the match. So I think flipping those two things would have resulted in the match being a little bit. Oh, I guess he would have came out even shields because the Defense Deoxys shielded the Hydro Pump. Even at that range, like a Play Rough would have KO'd as well. So some things to think about. Okay, so this Azumarill Dugong match, you want to fire off the Play Rough as soon as possible before you get Icy Wind debuffed. This is a very annoying match, and but very fortunate to have. Oh yeah, okay. So going for the Play Rough would be neutral as opposed to resisted by Dugong, and then as well like would have been able to outpace the Dugong. Not outpace it, like get to the Play Rough a little bit sooner. So gonna go for the Play Rough. So Play Rough against Dugong does 52 damage, and then Hydro Pump does 47, and with 15 less energy. So gonna look to land another Play Rough. And this should be enough to KO. Oh, okay. A little bit of lag, and okay, yep. Looks. Oh, the thing is, like, it's very debatable. Like, in theory, like I think in that situation, let's just pause for a moment. You know that you've been debuffed pretty significantly, right? They switched out. I think it's very difficult, and I make this mistake all the time, to fire off the charge move. And playing with all the debuffs, the thing is you bank the charge move, come back to it later, because the once the Azumarill comes back in, it's been reset. It's basically going to do twice the damage that it would have done against the Azumarill or whatever Pokemon later. So he's going to let this go. Ends up being Hydro Pump. Totally fine still. Still in an okay position. And should be able to outpace this Azumarill. Yep, there you go. If there's Azumarill shields, then okay. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. And then here comes Toxicroak. Very nice aggressive switching by the opponent. And then here's like, well, the thing is, you can come in with Haunter and basically farm down, even double shield, because basically both these Pokemon on the back can like basically feint to. Okay, so in this case, a Shadow Punch would have KO'd, and we're gonna see this likely Dugong come back out. Oh, actually, no, the Dugong had energy. Okay, all right. Okay, that made sense then. Able to get fainted down. Oh man, both these Pokemon had energy. Okay, this trainer is pretty good. Okay, all right. And this is where saving the Play Rough would have made sense. The thing is, like, he would have won the CMP tie against both Pokemon, and then he would have lost there anyway. So despite the lag, oh wow, okay, an Ice Beam would have been enough. So. But okay, wow, maybe he wouldn't have lost that match. But the thing is, like, you bank 2 charge move. Both Pokemon are within Shadow Punch range. Maybe not Azumarill, but you would have at least fire off the Shadow Punch would have meant like you would have got a little bit more energy afterwards. But I think the farm down against Toxicroak would have made sense, despite even using both shields and then firing off 2 Shadow Punches would have likely KO'd. Let's actually see how much a Shadow Punch would have done. So maybe Shadow Punch wouldn't have been enough. 41 damage. I think the Azumarill was slightly over a quarter. Dugong's also quite tanky. Shadow Punch would have KO'd the Dugong for sure. So even like Shadow Punch, Shadow Ball or something like that, or leave it low enough. Either way, like a Shadow Punch would have left it pretty low. And then, so some things to consider. So both like winnable matchups. So we're gonna go into the final game. I don't know if this is 3 or I think this is. I think I just watched 3. Maybe I just watched 4. I don't know. Let me know what you think of this like longer term video. Try to provide as much detailed feedback as possible. So in this matchup, I think Clefable wins this matchup in the 1 shield. Let me just double check this. Gonna go straight for the Hydro Pump, because if it no shields, it's gonna do a lot of damage. Yeah, Clefable. No, Zoomerl wins this matchup in the 1 shield, just landing the Hydro Pump. Well, actually, landing the Play Rough. I think double Play Rough would have been fine too. I think this Hydro Pump would have been a little bit unnecessary. Okay, gonna switch out into Registeel, which is not a bad idea. The only thing is like gonna get switch locked, and I'm not sure it was worth the switch lock. Yeah, so probably not worth the switch lock. Though this leaves it pretty gonna be able to get off this Focus Blast, and so gonna shield, which is fine. I think you have to commit to the Focus Blast. This Flash Cannon is not gonna KO. This Mud Bomb is also not gonna KO either. And it's only 2 more lock-ons to get to the Focus Blast. So I think in this case, switch it to Haunter. Okay, all right. Gonna be able to... Oh my gosh, okay, all right. That's super close. Could go with Zoomerl, but Zoomerl's super low. I think you go to Haunter. Oh, no, okay. So I think the thing here is you go to Haunter. Unfortunately, Haunter... Oh, man, this is Steel Wing. Oh, really nice switch by his opponent. I think you undercharge that, but you're going to get fainted down by the charms. So Steel Wing, Skarmory. So I think a couple things there is, one, don't switch out into Zoomerl just because like you want to save that as Zoomerl as a sack switch a little bit later on. Again, in my video, I talk about setting up the sack switch. Like sack switch, like obviously getting the sack switch is amazing, but in order to get there, you have to set it up. So he set it up quite well by switching out into Registeel, which I don't think was necessarily a bad idea. I do think like going for the Focus Blast, knowing that the Mud Bomb is not going to KO you, is something that you'll learn over practice or battling a lot of Registeels or playing Registeels. And then landing that Focus Blast meant that the Clefable would have to come back out, or the Skarmory would have came back out, and then you can play and dictate the match as you see fit. So overall, like I think you can see like 1 or 2 changes, like farming down, for example, or overcharging, or setting up the sack switch are like the small things that you can do to ultimately allow you to win a lot more matchups. So let me know what you think of this type of format. Do you want me to do more videos with my Patreons, detail and walking through the matchups and being as thorough as possible, or do you want me to just cover some like high level strats and whatnot, or a mix of both, or doing some fun videos? So let me know down in the comment section below, and happy battling. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.